data will show that the Philippines has the highest, if not the highest, in terms of corporate income tax and as well as personal income tax. In fact, Singapore has only, like, for personal income tax, it's only 17%. So you can see the disparity there. So perhaps we should give a warm round of applause for Senator Sonny for pushing for that. And we just hope also that that kind of a mindset will also be used as far as mining taxation or the revenue sharing scheme is concerned. Now at this point, I'd like to call on for Senator Bongbong Marcos to please answer the same question that I posed to Senator Sonny. There's a microphone beside you. Before anything else, Senator Marcos, I would like to welcome Congressman Lito Atienza. He's here. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Well, just to repeat the question, essentially we've been discussing so many things about the ills and the challenges that the mining industry has been facing. For the past 3 days, we have been bombarded with statistic, data, facts of what the challenges are. At the same time, what are the benefits that we could have derived from mining, but these were not realized because of the regulatory, legal, and even perception challenges that the industry is facing. So, as a senator, what can you do to address this particular issue?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, like Senator Sonny, I would at the outset say that I am not an expert on the mining industry, and I have some ideas about the industry. But what I do know a thing or two about is the relationship between national government and specifically the local government, because of my time in local government and my present position as chairman of the Committee on Local Government in the Senate. But so I would like to examine some of the issues that have been raised about the problems that have been encountered by the industry at the local government level. However, before I get to that, I have to start with some observations on this government's approach, this administration's approach to mining in general. And what we have been able to see is that the focus of this government has not been the development of the industry, has not been the increase or the encouragement of investment in mining industry in the country, but merely the focus has been very narrow in revenue generation. I think the view that this administration has taken is that because the Mining Act was upheld in 2005, then that is a necessary evil. And since it is a necessary evil that we have to deal with, that we have to live with, then let us make the best that we can do is to just make as much money out of the whole industry as we can. And that is not inconsistent with other policies in other industries as well. So that has, I think, colored and influenced everything that we have been talking about when it comes to the mining industry. For example, in 2012, the industry was excluded from the IPP. The reason being given, again, not getting its fair share. And with the constant current regime of the 50-50 sharing between government and the private sector, that still is seen as not getting their fair share. And so, again, the focus is on revenue generation for the government, not the development of an industry. I think you are all experts in the industry, and there you know perfectly well the benefits to the economy that mining can bring. It was with some surprise that I learned from Philip that from a high of 4.1% contribution to the GDP in 2010, we have now decreased again that to less than 1%, I believe it's 0.8% more or less, for the last years from the mining industry. And that has been the effect of this kind of policy. So despite the lip service that the government will help the industry, government has in fact played no part in encouraging investment in mining. Again, because of its very narrow focus on revenue generation out of the industry. And in fact, another indicator that this is in fact the government policy towards mining is that revenue generation is the only part that is important to the government when it comes to the mining industry, is the fact that if we look very hard, no matter how much study you make of it, there is no mining policy in this government today. We do not have any kind of plan. We do not have any kind, as Philip used, to use Philip's word, the vision. There is no vision as to what we want the mining industry to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now. How do we maximize the benefits to the people of the mining industry? How do we improve our economy by exploiting, of course, in a responsible way, the mining industry? And that is something that it has been a detriment to many of the efforts of the mining industry to develop. And it has also an effect not only in the national scene, but you will see later, also to the local scene. Many, in fact, of government's actions are actually contrary to the principles and intent of the 1995 Mining Act, Philippine Mining Act. Well, what are the examples? The examples are the proposed expansions of the no-go zones for agricultural lands and tourism sites. Now that's reasonable because we say that we are essentially still have a basis in a foundation of our economy is the agricultural sector, and that is important. However, it seems to be a flat policy that has not been arrived at by any kind of cost-benefit analysis. What is in fact whatever losses we may suffer by converting agricultural lands and allowing mining to be the mining companies to come in, what would be better for the community? What would be better for the country? What is the net effect of this action? So it would seem that there is very little informed and studied information that is reaching our policymakers. And there has been, I think, a blanket decision from the very top that mining is bad. And that is the be-all and the end-all as far as they are concerned. And again, that's what drives that policy. Let us just make money out of this evil industry that we will have to live with because there's a law that was upheld by the Supreme Court. And so that is just some observations on the national government's attitude towards the mining industry. Now, I set out to speak about local government. Why do I speak so much about the national government? Well, I think as I go on, you will see the effects of that policy or lack of it to the problems that you are encountering at the local government level. Now, let's move on to the local government. Local government, when it comes to the local communities and the big mining companies come in, local governments are very simple. What have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for us? How will it help us? We know that you are going to come in, you are going to cut down trees, you are going to cause all kinds of trouble. The ecology, the environment is going to suffer greatly. You promised that you are going to put in reforestation and redevelopment. But in fact, what are the numbers and what are you going to be able to do for us? Now, the financial side of it is part of it, but it is not the only part of it. So the suggestion of the mining industry that the 40% share of local government be directly remitted to the local government and immediately, not after 3 years, immediately remitted to the local government is a good start. You have to remember that if you are going to remit any kind of profit to the local government after 3 years, what will the mayor be thinking? What is the governor thinking? Baka mapunta pa sa yung kalabang ko na susunod. yung lahat ng advantage na ako nagtrabaho nito, ako nag-ayos nito lahat para makabuti, and who is going to gain credit. So, despite many of the legal arguments that have been made here today, when you get to the local government level, it is not a legal argument that you are having to make. It is a political argument that you are having to make. And so the 40% remittance is an important one, but it is not the answer to all the problems that you encounter, at least at the local government level. Now, there needs to be, as Mr. Francisco earlier asked, what is it that we are doing wrong? And why is it that people do not know about the good things that the mining industry does? And I'm afraid that your starting point, when you enter into a local community and propose a mining project, all they know about mining is the markup, the release of the tailings into the sea, the cyanide released by the Rapu mine, the sediment release, also the sediment spill of the Benguet mine. That's all they hear about. That is all they hear about. And unfortunately, that is what our media, that is in fact even the national government and the DNR have said that these are the things that we have to watch out for. They do not talk about the other side of the coin. They do not talk about the benefits that could be gained from the industry. And so that, unfortunately, I do not want to sugarcoat it, but that unfortunately is the starting point. Ay nako, itong mga malalaking kumpanya, papasok dito, sisirain lahat dito, tapos pag natapos na sila, aalis na sila. And the other thing, the other very general sentiment is that I remember when I was governor, there was a mining company that came in that made a proposal to mine. The locals said, bakit naman sila pang yayaman? Atin naman yan. Dapat tayo, small scale na lang natin yan. So ang proposal nila, yung the mining project that was being proposed, paghati-hati na lang natin and gawin na lang natin small scale. Now you and I all know that this is not to the best advantage even of the local community. But that has to be explained. Local sensitivities have actually been trampled upon. And there have been instances, and I can say this with some confidence because I experienced them myself, where as a governor, I would just get reports that there's a certain group that is starting to cut down trees, they're starting to build roads, they're starting to bring equipment in, and we didn't know anything about it. And immediately, what is the immediate reaction? What is going on? Why are you doing it? And who told you that you could do it? And how do you feel? How is it possible that you feel you can do it without us knowing, without us, the locals, knowing? But that actually happened because the approvals are done at the national level, at the regional, ostensibly at the regional level, but really at the national level. And so we are not informed. So this again is a problem not of the mining industry, but of government. This is something that has to be looked at because the treatment of local sensitivities is extremely important. As I said, I will go back to my thesis that the argument that needs to be made at the local level is not a legal one. The argument that needs to be made at the local level is a political one and to some extent an economic one. This makes the ground ripe for non-locals to come in and to oppose the mining project on an ideological basis. These groups come in not because they have specific reasons. They say that the river is going to be polluted, or the forest is going to be denuded, or this is what is going to happen. No, they come in because of their ideological belief that mining is bad. There is no good that comes from it, and there is no benefit that comes of it to the local community. How do you counteract that? You have to counteract that by being patient. You have to be patient and you have to explain what exactly it is that you intend to do. Most people do not understand what is entailed by a mining project. Again, when these people came to me and said, ati na lang yan, hati-hati na lang yan, gawin natin small mining yan, o tayo na lang ang mag-develop. And my answer to them was, do you have the money to explore? What they were proposing was a 200-hectare area to explore, to dig holes. And do you have the money? Can you afford, if at the end of all that exploration phase, that it is found it's not viable, and you write off whatever it is, $200, $300 million. So this is the kind of argument that is never actually explained. We are coming in, we are making huge investments, and we are taking great risks, and we are taking the risk away from you, and those risks are passed on to the private sector, and we are taking great risks. Now, they might not be beneficial, but if they are, the benefits are enormous. And so the general tendency also is to say, we will build schools, we will build hospitals, we'll help you do this, that, and the other thing. What I think, to go back again to the point of local sensitivities, what I think needs to be understood by the industry and everyone involved in it is that every province, every city, every municipality, for that matter, every barangay is different from every other local government unit. And therefore, the needs of that local government and the needs of that local community are specific, are unique to that area. Certainly, there are general similarities, but you also have to understand that this is not only something what are the needs for today, what are the needs for the future. So this will have to be done with extremely close consultation with the local government, but not necessarily only the politicians. Politicians have a very specific agenda. It's generally for themselves. But never mind that. That's a terrible mission to make coming from that. But I am happy to say that we have enlightened local government. In fact, the most enlightened government officials, in my view, are in local government. But in any case, I digress. To go back is that not only local politicians, because they have an agenda that is political, that applies only to them. What you must focus on is the actual long-term development in the local community. And to that, then you have to go into a much deeper, a much more, again, sensitive. The word sensitive keeps coming up. Sensitive approach to trying to understand what, in fact, the community needs. Sometimes what they say they need, upon further study, you will discover is not, in fact, what they need. But that is something that you must be able to find out. Now, how do you do that? You will need to talk to as many of the policymakers and the decision makers in the province, in the LGU, as you possibly can. And not only the political leadership, but even the business community, and of course the NGOs. That is, and if, as much as possible, as far down as possible, if you could talk to ordinary people, if you can. But again, it is not an easy process. It is something that we, as local government executives, will have to do as a matter of course, and it is something that you will have to do as well, because you have to address your efforts to what is in fact the reality on the ground, and it is not an obvious. Sometimes the needs are obvious, but most of the time they are not, and that is something. If you are able to gather this kind of information, and your response will be seen as that is correct, tama siya. That is what we need. That is right. That will really help the community. Once you have done that, and you have gotten the local community, then you will have gotten the local community on your side, and that is going to be a game changer for your relationship to the local community. It is an extremely important part of the work that you are trying to do. one of the general concerns of any local community are things like employment, things of jobs, things like how much income will come to the community, but more importantly, how much income will be gained by individuals. And how do you do that? It has to be addressed on a long-term basis. And this is where the problem with the national government comes in. How do you address the needs on a long-term basis? You talk to the Regional Development Council, you talk to NEDA. And NEDA and the RDCs have to coordinate your efforts. And NEDA must include your efforts in the development plan. And that is why the policy of national government becomes central to the problem that you face at the national level, at the local level. And that is why it is so important that there is an understanding, not only at the local level, but even at the national level. Because you are not going to be there for 2 years. You are not going to be there for 5 years. You will probably be there for 10 to 20 years. And you must plan over the life of the business. You cannot plan just for the next 5 years, the next 3 years. You must plan over, and that is why, again, national policy is important, because it is the only place that resides any kind of long-term plan for a local community. By necessity, a politician only thinks the planning horizon is 3 years, because I don't know if I'm going to win the next election. So let's just talk about 3 years. And so that's why it has to be at a national level. It has to be part of a long-term development plan that is encouraged and that is subscribed to and encouraged and endorsed by NEDA, by the RDC of that region and of that province. And that's where we begin to see the failure of national government to actually encourage the industry around the country. So that is simply the best way to approach this problem that you have in the local communities. Now, the problem that you see with IPs, I believe that in fact yesterday you had a demonstration here of some groups that came in, and again, it is just local sensitivity. You have to be patient. You have to sit down and explain to them, we will respect whatever ancestral domain that is accredited to you. You will get your share. And beyond that, we are going to do other things besides. So, that again is when you have to get past the rhetoric. And that's why I keep saying, that's why I keep counseling patience. You must get past the rhetoric, and you must be sensitive to the actual needs of the local community. And you cannot approach it, I have here in my notes, it cannot be a shotgun approach. Basta pagpapasok tayo, we'll build 3 schools, 2 hospitals, we'll help them with the roads, irrigation, etc., etc. You do not know what the local community in fact needs. And until you do, you cannot respond to those needs properly. And again, it comes down to that very simple idea, is that you are in here, and you are coming to our area, and you are proposing this massive industry, which we do not know what the effect will be. That is why you have to explain it. And we do not know what the long-term effects will be. Which brings us to my final point. The sensitivity on the degradation of the environment and the ecology. Now, as I said, your unfortunate starting point are only the disasters that have happened in the past. You do not talk about any, I do not hear myself of any, how many schools have been built, how much has been, it was the first time that I heard earlier on about the actual specific projects that were going out. So maybe there is a PR disconnect there. Maybe you could help yourselves a little bit more there. But again, it is... Yes,
that's why I became chairman of the board of Manila Standard.
Well, every little bit helps. So again, but in all, for example, there was a great deal of discourse on the ordinances that have been passed at the local level that ban mining from their area. Now, the principle that national law cannot be superseded or amended by a local ordinance is something that is well understood. Why is it not being enforced? Who will enforce it? Who will enforce it is the national government. But they cannot enforce what they do not know they need to enforce because they have no policy. And that, again, it boils down. That is why I spent so much time of speaking here today, of talking about national policy and its shortcomings when it comes to the development of the mining industry. So we have to focus on that. But at the same time, you have to do the homework at the ground level and be sensitive to the local. Sometimes you feel they are unreasonable, but always look further. Be patient, ask more questions, think more about it, and eventually you will begin to see, it will become clear to you. Identify also those in the local community who have an understanding. They might be against mining, but they are willing to listen. That's the important thing. You have to find those to help you to spread the word that, in fact, if done well, if done properly, if done sensitively, it can be good. Now, it brings us, as I said, to this issue of the sensitivity towards the environment, the preservation of the environment. I think that sometimes people who live in cities do not quite understand how close people in rural areas are to the land. And especially with the IPs. I have a little experience with that because during the hearings in the Bangsamoro, we talked about IPs. And the continual refrain was that we have been put on this earth to take care of the environment. And that is what it means to them. And I sometimes smile when I see these campaigners coming from Manila, going to provinces and say, we must preserve the environment, we must do this, we must do that, and people should be more sensitive. And I laugh because you people, you live in cities, you do not understand. People in the countryside have to live with the environment. They have to make their living off the land. And any damage to that land will take that living away. And that is what they use to feed their families, to clothe to send their children to school, to build their homes, etc., etc. So again, these are the kind of it comes down to an understanding of the local condition. But at the same time, unless national policy is clear, unless national policy thinks in the long term, and unless national policy is coordinated, then we will still have the same problems at the local community. There is a way to get around that. If you can, kung kaya talaga ninyong kumbinsin na mabuti ang local community, then the national policy, then you can have a singular policy at the local level. However, there's a much more difficult way of going about it. National policy still holds the key. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Marcos.